inaccuracies?
Well, there are a lot of rumors and there's a lot of misinformation about Ebola being reported around the world. We held a workshop yesterday with the World Federation of Science Journalists and the U.S. Department of State as the organizers, and journalists around Africa participating. We heard from one journalist presenter, for example, that when he was recently in Liberia reporting on the Ebola story, he heard from many people that they believed that their childhood vaccines were causing Ebola, and as a result, parents were choosing not to get their children vaccinated against deadly and preventable diseases. So that's the type of situation in which the media can play such a crucial role by getting accurate information out to the public that can really save lives of the people in their communities.
So is it more, the reporting, is it a global problem, or is it more of a localized problem where Ebola is present, that the reporting is not accurate?
Oh, I would not say it's a localized problem. This is something that exists around the world, and it's not unique to Ebola. The workshop that we held yesterday, in which we'll have many ongoing parts, seeks to provide information about how to report in a scientific and factual way about any kind of disease. And so we just want to ensure that journalists have the tools and the information necessary to be able to provide the kind of accurate and scientific information that will enable them to inform their communities so that the communities know what to do in a public health emergency such as Ebola, how to take the important steps of prevention, for example.
Let's talk about the interaction that you've had with some of the global journalists and what's come out of it, and perhaps some enlightening information that they perhaps have said, well, gosh, we didn't even know that. Have you found that? Have you found that they have, during these courses, have been completely educated and thought, well, listen, we've been getting this wrong?
Well, I think there were a lot of things that came out of the workshop we held yesterday that came through, and the questions that the journalists were asking of the various presenters. One of the presenters said something that I thought was very interesting. She said that journalists are like doctors writing a prescription. Readers take the information and act on it. And I think that really speaks to the fact that journalists have to be very careful in the information that they provide to ensure that it is accurate. There were many questions from journalists coming in throughout the course of the workshop that indicated there were still a lot of issues surrounding the disease that they did not fully understand. So I think it is important for us to be able to provide the information, provide resources that provides the factual information. We generally refer journalists to sources such as the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They have a wonderful website, www.cdc.gov/Ebola, which provides a lot of the facts about Ebola, the disease, how it can be prevented, and how to prevent its spread.
Okay. Let's give advice to viewers that are watching as well, because, you know, obviously, like you say, it's so true. What you hear in the media is what you know. You don't necessarily know anything else. I mean, that's how we are being educated about Ebola. What are some of the misconceptions? I mean, one of them that you did say in the opening is about the fact that getting vaccinated can cause Ebola, which, you know, is a big no-no. But what are some of the things, like, for instance, traveling, sitting next to somebody on a plane that has Ebola, just things like that, things that people are really worried about or concerned about that they shouldn't be?
Well, a lot of that information can be found on the website that I just gave you.
Good.
Sort of myths about Ebola, how you can and cannot catch Ebola. And that's very important for people to understand, because when they hear about Ebola, people become very panicked. And it is actually a difficult disease to catch, and we want to ensure that that information is relayed to people. Ebola can Ebola can only be spread when someone is symptomatic with the disease. So if you're sitting next to someone on an airplane and they're not symptomatic, then you should not be at risk. It's that type of information that we need to ask the media to help us get out to publics around the world.
Give me that website address so in case anybody missed it.
Sure, it's www.cdc.gov/Ebola.
.gov/Ebola. So it's cdc.gov/Ebola.
That's right.
All right, you'll be able to get all the information there, as well as the briefing information that you do give to journalists on the reporting there as well.
Yes, and if anyone has additional questions about the information for journalists specifically, I would invite them to reach out to us on Twitter. Our handle is @AfricaMediaHub.
Okay, at Africa Media Hub. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming in, for educating us, for talking to us about some of the misconceptions when it comes to reporting on Ebola, and it really is. I'm glad that we're getting to the bottom of it. Camille Dawson is the Africa Media Hub U.S. Department State, talking to us all about this. Now, as I mentioned,